Hey guys, welcome back to this Jbehave crash course for beginners. My name is Emiliano and what we're going to check out today is the first chapter, and as it says right here on the screen, we're gonna basically focus in learning what is Jbehave. Jbehave basically is an automation framework for BDD. BDD stands for Behave Driven Development, which, if you don't know what this Behave Driven Development thing is pretty much the new version of test driven development. Yeah, okay, so we can basically call it the TDD 2.0. Jbehave pretty much uses just 3 files. With 3 files we can create whatever the hell we want. One is the story file, which is basically, it's mainly the place where we write our test case following the behavior driven development format, which is using these 3 keywords, that is given, when, then. Given, I have some precondition. When something happens, then this is the outcome. For instance, given I have a browser, when I don't know, type google.com in it, then I see Google on screen. Just to say a stupid example. Given I'm hungry, when I open the fridge, then I realize that I have to do groceries, for instance. The steps file, this is basically a Java class where we code our steps and they have to match with basically the action phrase in the story file. We're gonna, on the next slide, we're gonna see and understand what an action phrase is. And last but not least, the mapping file. This mapping file basically what does is matches the story file with the steps file and tells, okay, let's execute this story using these steps. After we execute everything, we have a reporting system. Let's start with the story file. As I said before, this is pretty much a plain text file. The only characteristic that it has is that it doesn't have an extension .txt, but it's that story. This is the I don't know, the fancy thing that Jbehave has. We don't write test cases, we write stories. As I said before, the extension of these files are that story, and we use this format that I told you before, given, when, then. Given something, when something happens, then this is the outcome. Here we have a simple example. In the course we're gonna eventually write more I don't know, fancier cases than this one. Now here we have, given I send the GET request to some URL, when I check the response code, then I verify that the message is yada yada. We don't care, this is a stupid example. Let's jump into the second file that we talked about. It was the steps file. The steps file, as I told you before, is nothing much than a Java class which stands from steps. Steps is a class within Jbehave. It comes within the Jbehave core, and to match these action phrases we're gonna use the annotations given, when, then. An action phrase is pretty much the sentence that we use in the .story file. Given something happens, when something yada yada, then yada yada. That's the action phrase. If you remember what we saw on the prior slide, we saw that given I send the GET request, and here we have the same thing. It matches perfectly. If you pay attention, you're gonna notice that it's the URL that we're hitting is not hard coded on the code, but there's like a $sign. This is a parameter. We're gonna see this more deeply once we start writing an actual test case. But continuing with this, as I said before, we have the actual given phrase, given I send a GET request, when I check the response, blah blah blah, then I verify that the message is yada yada. See, basically we now know that we have 2 files that they say pretty much the same. The .story file, we write the test case. The steps file, we code the test case. And last and finally, we have this Stepsmapper. The Stepsmapper is also a Java class but this one extends from JUnit stories. Jbehave, pretty much all the test cases are JUnits. All the tests are pretty much JUnits. That's why this class extends from this class. And as I said before, here this class, the property that it has is basically calls the story file and said execute me this test case using these steps. So here we're gonna, as the same as with the other files, we're gonna deep dive into this later on in the course. But if you take a look at this, here we have the class, which is extended from JUnit, and we have these sample steps. This is the name of the class where I wrote these stupid steps before. And the last line, it also has the path of the story file. So, as I said before, this class basically calls the story file and says, okay, I'm gonna run this using these steps. After this is executed, we have the reports. I'm not showing you guys the report here right now because I want to surprise you. Basically, after we write our first test case, we're gonna execute it and we're gonna check the reporting of our test case. So this was pretty much the intro of Jbehave. See you guys on next chapter. Bye bye.